recording, so I'm just going to do that now and then I will reshare. Okay, so we're joining for the content now, for the people on re-record. There we go. Just reminded just in time. Brilliant. Okay, so the session today, it's going to be about what mindfulness is. So a bit of myth busting around what it isn't as well. There's a lot of inaccurate information in the media out there about what mindfulness is. It's really represented really falsely by many journalist publications. So that always kind of grinds my gears a bit. So I'm really keen to myth bust and tell you really what it is about, so you can learn a little bit about that. I'll also be talking about the neuroscience and the way our brains are wired, and really about how mindfulness training can rewire your brain to be more effective, to have better habits in your life, and to ultimately be more contented and to have a different relationship with your thoughts and feelings. So we'll talk a little bit about the changes in the brain that go on during training and what's happening there. So why this is an evidence-based approach and what the research says. We'll also do a mini meditation. So we'll just have a go at a short practice. So this is just going to be like a 3-minute practice, nothing extended like in training, but it will give you a chance to have a go and really experience what mindfulness is in a very small way, because mindfulness is best experienced. It's really best actually experienced for yourself, because it's very individual. It's not the same for everyone. We'll talk a little bit about habit training and how we set up a system in our lives to create these habits regularly. And this is not about willpower, and I'll pull on James Clear and his work and the way he's amazingly pulled together a load of research in his material about how we set up a system that sticks. You know, there's no point learning mindfulness or even have a will to doing running or Joe Wicks or whatever it may be right now without a system to do it, to actually make ourselves do it. It's not enough to have the idea that this is a good idea. We actually need to do it. But there are systems and ways we can work with the brain and effectively allow ourselves in more easy ways to stick to these habits. And offer you some free resources as well. So besides book recommendations, a mini meditation, or some other bits and pieces for you, before touching on online training. So if this is something that you're interested in pursuing in a kind of serious way, then yeah, there's some resources there for you as well, and ways you can kind of join me in online training. So myths about mindfulness, this is where we should start. So one of the biggest myths about mindfulness, probably the most commonly held myths, is that it's about clearing the mind. And somehow magically that during our meditations, we should have a clear mind and be absent of thoughts. And this isn't true at all for most people. Mindfulness is a training practice, but even monks who have been meditating for 30, 40 plus years will experience a busy meditation sometimes. So really, this is not about clearing the mind, but what we're doing in meditation is we're developing a distance between us and our thoughts. So every time the mind wanders, we notice that it's wandered, and we gently escort our attention back to a point of focus. So we're training the mind over and over again. So we're training it to be aware of what's going on in our mind and body and noticing. So this is much more about noticing than it is about clearing the mind. Now, most people are like, yeah, but I really want to clear my mind, especially right now with what's going on in the world. My mind is extra full. And I hear you, you know, this is hard. This is hard when our minds are really busy. And it is possible to train our focus and our attention over time, over the long term, but this is not a quick fix. And even when we've been doing training for a long time, we might still notice a busy meditation. And then this becomes more about the way we treat ourselves in that moment, and not about magically expecting a clear mind. So it's really important to notice that, because meditation training, mindfulness training broadly, is not about achieving a certain state. It's tempting to treat it like that, like we treat everything else, that we have to somehow get somewhere and achieve something. But mindfulness is more about the process. Yes, of course, we want to feel better. You know, of course we want to feel better and we want to help our teams feel better, but we need to let go of that goal and we need to do the work and know that ultimately the changes will come. but too much wrapping ourselves up in the goal can really get in the way of the kind of progress we go on. So that's one major myth. It's not about clearing the mind. It's about noticing and coming back. That's really key. Another myth is that it is somehow a fad that's been around recently and it will just pass through like anything else. But people have been meditating for millennia, since pre-Buddhist times. It hit Western mindfulness at the end of the 1970s. So that's by a guy called Professor John Kabat-Zinn. You may have heard of him if you're into mindfulness. He is really the father of Western mindfulness because he brought mindfulness to Western medicine, to clinical medicine. So he did some of the original clinical research out of the University of Massachusetts. And that was originally for people with chronic pain and depression. I mean, he developed an 8-week format, which I teach for the public, and a shortened version in workplaces as well. So that's why it's hit the kind of media and the kind of why it's risen to popularity. Unfortunately, there's a lot of rubbish out there as well as evidence-based mindfulness. So it gets mixed up with people who have been on like a 1 weekend course and then they think they can teach mindfulness. My training was for 2 years, and then I have a supervisor at Oxford Uni who I check in with regularly. So there is mindfulness and mindfulness. So if ever you're doing mindfulness, you just want to be with someone who's got a diploma in mindfulness teaching, who's properly trained. That's really important. And the final myth is that it would somehow interfere with a religious practice, or in itself might be a religious thing to be doing. But it's not. It can be spiritual for some people, but it's not religious in itself, nor does it interfere with any other religious practice. It can be alongside that. So those are the major myths about mindfulness. So I've put them there as a kind of summary for you. So that's a little bit of a high level. So this is an overall definition of mindfulness, which I think is the most useful. I'll just let you read that. So paying attention to what's happening in the present moment, this moment, the only moment we have, in the mind, body, and external environment. So recognizing how these three things are interrelated, with an attitude of curiosity and kindness. Now, this definition, I think, is the best I can find. They're pretty abstract because it's a big practice, but this came from the Mindful Nation report, which was produced by the All-Party Parliamentary Committee into Mindfulness. So there is research evidence going on at the highest levels of government at this time. There isn't a lot of funding around it. The excuse was Brexit before. No doubt the excuse is it will be coronavirus after this. So there's not a lot on the NHS. There is patchy bits and pieces. But there is recommendations from this report about mindfulness in the prison service, mindfulness in business, mindfulness in schools and the healthcare system. So there's been a lot of work about how this can be integrated and what changes could be seen in both a workplace and kind of personal environments and prison and health as well. So there is broad-ranging interest and a lot of additional peer-reviewed research going on. It's a very big area of research at the moment. But you'll notice with this definition, there's nothing about clearing the mind here. This is about awareness. You know, it sounds like a fluffy word, but it's about awareness. It's about awareness of what's going on, how we're doing, what's going on about in the mind, body, and what we're interrelating with, whether that be a person or a situation, and cultivating an attitude of curiosity and kindness. Most of us have a very well-established inner critic that pushes us around all day, every day, saying you did this wrong, and why about that, and should be more like this. So consequently, we need to work harder to develop an attitude of curiosity and kindness. And curiosity and kindness is also great because it helps us with creativity. It helps us with focus and with our overall leadership capacity, because we're growing this within ourselves, which is really amazing and way to grow. So we know that this is really applicable to the way we run our lives, both personal and professional. So before we do anything else, I'm just going to do a little minute meditation practice. I'm just going to have a little check in on you to see how you're doing. Okay, looks like you can see them too. That's brilliant. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're just going to do a mini meditation of about 3 minutes. So I would encourage you, as best you can, to find an upright posture. And in a minute, I'll talk about the neuroscience and all this kind of jazz, but I think it's important just to have a little go at this stuff. And whether you're completely new to this or you've never done anything like this before, then see if you can come with an open mind. So find yourself an upright posture. It could be on a chair. If you prefer to sit on the floor, put your laptop on the floor with a cushion, then you can do that. But an upright chair, straight back chair is absolutely fine. So if the only guidance really with sitting in meditation practice is just to sit upright. So shoulders back and down, chest lifted. We're signaling to the body that we are aware and awake. So we're giving it a kind of signal that something's changed, that we're like, oh, okay, this is a moment to pause. So allowing yourself to gently close your eyes or lower your gaze. And just bringing the attention into the weight of the body. So having your feet flat on the floor and noticing the contact points of your feet touching the floor. Noticing the weight of the legs and buttocks on the chair or the cushion. Just noticing the sense of weight and grounding. And then noticing the weight of the arms resting in the lap. And then taking a gentle scan of the body from top to toe and asking yourself, what's the weather pattern like inside? So what thoughts are around? What feelings are here? And any sensations in the body. So just gently scanning through the body once or twice, just to tune into this weather pattern. You might even have a weather analogy like stormy or calm, clear, cloudy, foggy, clear day. Whatever's here, just tuning into thoughts, feelings, body sensations. And as best you can, allowing things to be just as they are in this moment. Just letting go of any need to change anything just for the moment and just allowing things to be as they are, as best you can. And then gathering the attention and bringing it to the breath down in the abdomen. So you can put your hand here on your belly if it helps you. And just feeling into the sensations of breathing. So noticing the rise of the abdomen on the in-breath and the falling away on the out-breath. Just as best you can. So we're not trying to change the breath, but just allowing the breath to breathe itself. We're also not thinking about breathing, but we're feeling into the physical sensations of breathing. So just this breath coming in. And just this breath going out. And if the mind wanders, as our minds regularly do, just gently going and getting it and bringing it back to these felt sensations of breathing. Gently breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. And then widening the attention out to the whole body, in a sense of the whole body breathing. So as if you were breathing through the pores of the skin. So however your weather pattern is, just see if it's possible just to bring the attention back to the felt sensations of breathing through the whole body. Just breathing in and breathing out. Nowhere to get to and nothing to achieve. Just breathing with this body, just as it is. Gently breathing in and breathing out. Just coming back each time the mind wanders, just gently. Just breathing in and breathing out. And just releasing even the intention to meditate for a moment, just sitting here. So welcome back. And feel free if you want to stretch or shake or whatever your body needs, just to kind of come back into the space here. And it'd be really interesting to know how what the kind of weather pattern has been like for people. Maybe I asked you to tune into the weather pattern at the beginning. So maybe in the comments, write down what your weather pattern was like. So you can write. Chris and I have been joking because he's been saying hurricane a lot, which I think it's really interesting, isn't it? I feel like a hurricane. I'm just like all churned up inside. That's really, it's a good analogy. Or maybe your weather pattern is clear day. Actually feel okay, So if you could just, put in the comments just what your weather pattern is when you kind of started the meditation. Yeah, it's really interesting to see where people are. Just any kind of word or words as a bit of a check-in. Yeah, so we've got calm on the surface, but a bit of a churn in the stomach. Yeah, a bit cloudy, sunny, stormy, but sunny mixture. 4 seasons in one. Oh, interesting. Yeah, so a bit of a change going on. Stormy and foggy, haze, low-hanging cloud on a summer's day, waiting for the sun to break through. Yeah, nice description. Mostly calm with periods of fog. It's like turbulence. I like the way this is turning into almost like the shipping forecast, like northerly, west, blah, blah, blah. From hurricane to a sunny day in 3 minutes. Interesting. Yeah, and it's interesting what, and feel free to change your to line to all panelists and attendees so everyone can see your comments as you put them in there. And it's really useful, and what I said at the beginning about mindfulness not being about trying to get anywhere, like we're not trying to like rid the weather pattern of the storm and turn it into a summer's day. If you ended up still in the storm, that's okay. What we're doing here is we're giving ourselves a chance to pause, and that's what's most important here. So thanks for all of the responses there. I also have got a little poll here about how that meditation was for you in general. And again, it doesn't matter. This is not about achieving a certain state. But again, this is anonymous. I'm just going to launch this poll about what it was like for you in general. So from difficult to really relaxing. And there isn't a right answer. So I'm not looking for everyone to say relaxing or something. So just say honestly what it was like for you. So just keep those responses coming in. We've got about 17 out of 20, 28 responses here. Okay, so quite a mix there. Feel free to keep voting. Yes, a few people finding it quite hard. Some people finding it fine, just kind of average, or other people noticing it was a really nice pause, and a few people finding it really relaxing as well. So yeah, thank you for all your responses there. That's really useful. Really useful to see kind of where people are at. I'll just finish that. I can share results. That would have been a good thing for the first one. There we go. There's the results. So you can see that coming in. So what we were doing there in that meditation is we were moving through some steps. So that little particular meditation is called the 3-stage breathing space meditation, and I'll share a recording with you as a follow-up to this webinar. And effectively, what's really great with this, if you were to do one thing for your mindfulness practice for yourself following this, it will be to practice this regularly in your day. And a mindfulness practice is usually combined of a longer meditation, regular pauses, and other practices throughout the day. So there's normally, it's more to it than this. However, by starting a pausing practice, you're really getting on the way to be doing something like towards your mindfulness practice. So it can make a real difference. And what you're doing here is you did 3 steps. So you did becoming aware. What's the weather pattern like inside? Where am I at right now? Oh, it's kind of in the middle of a storm, or feeling kind of calm. Whatever it is, just noticing. Yeah, where am I at? And then we gathered the attention to the breath in the abdomen, so like the belly area as a focal point. And every time the mind wanders, we gently brought it back. So we did that. And that's what the idea is. And then we expanded out to the whole body. So what's it like to feel into the whole body? So we're kind of doing a little bit of a kind of check. And then we're doing a little pause. And over time, it's great to practice with this about what it's like. Now, it might be that sometimes when you do this, it just feels still like the hurricane at the end of the time. And other times you might feel calmer, and that's okay. It doesn't matter. This is kind of doing it for doing its sake, and knowing that over the long term, this will have an effect. So it's tempting to think, oh, it's not working for me. I don't feel immediately better. But no wonder if we've been like running around mentally or physically in our house after our kids or team or whatever it may be, it's no wonder we're kind of churned up inside. So doing these practices as a pause, because it's something different. We're taking a pause from the rest of life and checking in can be hugely effective. So that is a really good thing to know. This is a lovely quote from Viktor Frankl, which I think explains mindfulness really. So really what mindfulness is doing is it's about building a space between stimulus and response. It's about creating spaces between when we would have got angry, or we would have lashed out, or we would have been really nasty to ourselves or our team members. And we're allowing pauses. And over time, this is about behavior change. You know, we're not meditating to have a nice time meditating. You know, it can be nice if we enjoy meditation. However, this is about how we behave. This is about how we treat people and how we treat ourselves. And that is what this is really about. It's about our emotional intelligence. And that's why mindfulness is about behavior change. It's not around sitting around doing nothing, meditating. Yes, we do nothing and meditate as best we can. But really what this is about the way we can change our own behavior over time and improve our own behavior. So that's kind of a really important message. And to tell you a little bit about the neuroscience, so many of you will be familiar with this. Neuroscience moved a long way in the 1970s and early 80s, and there were big discoveries around how the brain is wired and then how we can rewire our brains through different things that we do. So every time we think, feel, learn something new, we make new neural connections in our brain. So we are wiring our brain all of the time. And effectively over time, we can hardwire things. So it becomes real habitual. Now we can hardwire contentment or we can hardwire anxiety. You know, I spent a long time hardwiring anxiety. So that's why I felt really anxious all the time. So we can really program this stuff into our brains just by the way we practice. And that could be the things we say to ourselves or the way we treat others. All this stuff we practice, be that positively or negatively. And many of you will have heard of the survival response and the stress response that we often experience, and the fact that we have a negativity bias. So if you haven't heard of this, this is basically the fact that we are wired for survival. We're not wired for happiness, which is a shame, but it's true, which means that we're constantly on the lookout for things to go wrong and for things to inhibit us and to make us fearful. Which means right now, most of our survival instincts are like on red alert right now, because there's a lot of threat or potential threat that we don't even know how big or small it's going to be. So consequently, we can find ourselves in survival mode, which is just feeling stressed to a smaller or greater extent. And we might notice that through adrenaline in the body. So heart's pumping faster, we're just feeling kind of like we're going faster. We might want to run. So that's the flight response. So fight tends to be like pumped with adrenaline, ready to go. Flight was we want to run, and then freeze, or sometimes called hide, is we just want to bury our head in the sands and make it all go away. And these are very natural stress responses. They are to be acknowledged, not to be criticized for. If you're feeling like this, that's okay. It's no wonder. A lot of the way we treat ourselves around this is really important. So just acknowledging what's there and that it's not surprising is good, because really it's the thoughts around this that can cause the problem. So they're like, I shouldn't be feeling this way. That's a layer of kind of unnecessary thought, which we can work on over time. So thoughts are not facts. We spend a lot of our time, right now particularly, I'm not devalidating the fact that lots of people have genuine serious worries right now. That is true. But we can also have a lot of thoughts that are just about things we don't know how it's going to work out. So we might be anticipating bad things. That's the way the brain likes to work. It likes to anticipate. So what we're doing is, in meditation practice and wider mindfulness practice, is we're building distance between us and those thoughts that may be not serving us right now. And that's really important, that we build that distance. It's really important to allow ourselves a space between that. And so what we're doing is we're creating and establishing the space between us and our thoughts. So as a society, we spend quite a lot of time looking after our bodies now on government sanctioned exercise breaks, but usually it's pretty acknowledged that we should exercise, that we should eat well. And whether we do it or not, that's pretty well, established in the modern world. We even spend about 5 minutes a day looking just after our teeth. But how much time do we spend looking after our minds? And that's really what this is about, is that we can effectively exercise our minds. And our minds need looking after, they need caring for, so that they don't get lazy and start going down rabbit holes, this type of thing. I've been down many a rabbit hole with anxiety and depression, and it's not fun. And consequently, I've worked very hard on my mindfulness practice to treat myself differently. And that's really, really key. That's what this is about. And whether you have mild stress or you've experienced severe depression, it counts. It counts for all of us. So the great news about all of this is neuroplasticity. And all that means is the brain is plastic, and that means it can change over time, which is fantastic news. It can change over time. We can rewire our brains by the things that we practice and by the habits that we form. So this is really key. And we haven't really got time to go into all the detail of the neuroscience, but there's some stuff there. Effectively, we reduce stress hormones like cortisol, the amygdala, which is the fight or flight response in the brain, the place where the fight or flight response comes from, that reduces in size. So it reduces the amount of adrenaline we release. Now, this is research, to be very clear, this is about research that's done over a structured 5 to 8 week course. A lot of changes don't properly start happening to about weeks 5 of a course, which is why I don't do courses less than 6 weeks, because you may not see any change, particularly that's long lasting at all. So that's why this is a long-term thing, not a short-term fix. And that's a really key message around mindfulness, is about practice over the long term. That's what makes the difference. This is what you are doing in meditation. Mindfulness is about clearing the mind. It's about coming back to this point of of focus, and that's really key. So, and really this is how we come back is really important. So this is about cultivating the kindness and the curiosity. So a lot of us will be like, oh, mind wandering, get back here, you're supposed to be meditating. So we might notice that going on. So really what we're doing is cultivating a kind voice that's like, oh, you've wandered. Thanks for that mind, about that worry, about what I'm going to do in my meeting today. Let's gently bring it back to the focus on the breath. And we're doing that over and over again, acknowledging what's there, coming back, strengthening a muscle of awareness and attention. That is really key. So how can I best take care of myself? Now, what I'm going to do here is a little exercise. So I'm just going to quickly drop out, check everyone's okay. So what we're going to do here is I'm going to invite you to do a little exercise by yourself, for yourself. Now I'd like you to just get any old piece of paper. So just a piece of paper in front of you. Ideally not on your laptop because then you'll be swapping between screens, but if you've only got a laptop, then you could do that. So just get yourself a piece of paper and a pen. And I'd just like you to jot down the types of activities you're doing in an average day right now. So whether that being getting up, checking email, having a shower, going for a dog walk, calling a friend, doing a work meeting. Now, I just want you to put down a list of activities you're doing in your average day at the moment. I know this is not particularly average times, but what is going on right now? Not an ideal version, just what's here right now. And just jot them down in a list, kind of granular style. So you might have 15 things, all the different things, including dinner. And if you've got work, break it down into emails, calls, report writing, whatever it may be, checking in on frantic employees, whatever it may be. So just a little bit granular style, jot down in front of you all the things you're doing in an average day. This is really important about what we're doing in our day-to-day lives. So just have a little note down. So just give you a couple of minutes to do that. So jotting a granular list of all the things you're doing in an average day. The non-average, average world that is developing. When you've done it, just jot in the chat panel done, something like this. Checking the news far too many times, yes. Yeah, brilliant. Okay. So everybody's getting about done, that's wonderful. And if you're still continuing, just keep going with your list of things you're doing in an average day. That's a great. Yeah, not a lot of restorative stuff. Well, you're exactly where we're thinking here. So what I'd like you to do is just jot down next to each one, whether you think it's nourishing, so an N, depleting, or ND, both, it depends. So you can jot down an N for nourishing. Now by nourishing, I mean things that build us up, that give us energy, that help us thrive in life in general. Give it an N. So just note down, code it an N. If it's depleting or draining, then I mean things that really kind of grind us down over time. Or if it's both or it depends, write an ND. So just have a little code of your list. Okay, let's have a look at the chat panel again. Brilliant. Didn't it help? So having a look at your list, yeah, it's interesting to notice, isn't it? What stuff is nourishing, what's depleting? And feel free to write any observations a few of you have already. So a lot of restorative stuff. Anything you notice about your list of things you're doing in an average day. It's really interesting to think about how we're running our day. And to see how we're building and how we're wiring our brains, because that's effectively what we're doing all day, every day. Now, to sort of flip this to the positive and what we can do, I'd also like you to write down in the chat panel any nourishing things that you're doing. Now, these could be nourishing things that you do now, because we can only do a limited amount, but we can do some nourishing things. Or they could be things that you think you could do in these times. So just writing a list of nourishing things, either that you are doing now or that you could be doing now. So just writing a list, it could be like quick fire, one thing, just keep the chat going, just things that you notice are nourishing. Moira, hi Moira. 3-minute mindfulness, Joe Wicks, Zoom with friends. Oh, that's nice. Yeah. Exercise, dog walking. Brilliant. Walking the dog. Speaking to friends and family. Yeah. What else you got? Being in the garden. Does red wine count? In limited amounts, yes. Yeah. Playing with the kids, yeah. Reading Hilary Mantel, lovely. Yeah, time with husband and sons, gardening, laughing at WhatsApp clips. Yeah, there is a lot of interesting memes going around at the moment, isn't there? So keep them coming, keep the nourishing things coming. So what I'm going to do is just describe something here, and this is I'm just going to jot down a few of your things. So got a lovely list here. So notice cooking, meditation, dog walks, calls with friends. What else have we got? Learning to play guitar. How interesting. Guitar, yeah. Walk in the back garden, volunteering. Yeah, there's a lot we can do, even remotely, isn't there? Volunteering. Hot tub. Oh, jealousy now reigns. You have a hot tub. So we got here learning, cooking, conference calls with family, connecting with the new work buddies. Yeah, okay, really nice. Okay, new work. Kids, being a kid, playing with kids. Yeah. Walking my cat, brilliant. Writing posts with a view to help others. Yeah, so blog post, writing or writing. Yeah, anything else? Keep them coming. Keep going. Books, reading. Yeah, lovely. Brilliant. Oh, lovely. White Christmas lights, lovely. Yeah, journaling. That's a nice thing, isn't it? Yeah, being able to reflect how we're feeling. Great. Okay, so this is an exercise we do in a mindfulness course. So this is just I'm giving you the highlights, and we haven't got much time left, so we're gonna have to round up soon. But what the key message here is that these are the things. Now, it doesn't matter if you can't read this. These are just some of your items here that keep us well. And what can happen here is that if we stop doing nourishing things in our lives, we can go down something called the exhaustion funnel, which looks a little bit like this. So what happens is we go, well, everything's getting too busy, so I've got no time for any of these nice things anymore. My mind's busy. I've just got to sit at home on the sofa, slouching around. And what can happen is that we go down what's called the exhaustion funnel, and we can end up at the bottom here, which is burnout. And I've been there. It's not particularly fun. It's pretty awful. So that can happen to our mental health. So what we're doing here is we're noticing that these are the things that keep us well, even if we're in more restrictive circumstances. So if we notice that our mood is dropping at any point,